I'm Nicholas Wright.
And I'm Jose Rosas.
We're doing Blizzard. Who here has heard of World of Warcraft? Okay, a few of you. World of Warcraft is a Blizzard game, as is other games you might have heard of, StarCraft, Diablo. It can often seem that game companies are very small, they're indie, they're entertainment companies. Blizzard makes around $50 billion a year currently. They are they changed the cultural landscape of the cities they are built in, which is Austin, San Francisco, and they changed the cultural landscape of the cities they sell in. We're going to try and explain the past, present, and future of Blizzard as a company to let you understand why they're important and what they're going to do in the future that will make them important. Blizzard was started by 3 people in 1991 and 2, it's kind of debatable, named Alan Adham, Michael Morhaime, and Frank Pierce. They were originally named Silicon Synapse, although they changed their name to Blizzard in 1994 after the release of their first 3 games, RPM Racing, Rock and Roll Racing, and The Lost Vikings. All of these were small games on the SNES, which was an early Nintendo console. This was before they were independent fully from consoles and things like that. None of these were that successful. They made a good chunk of change, but they weren't what made Blizzard a giant. In 1994, they released a game called Warcraft, which was a strategy game, sort of real-time strategy game that served as the basis for the world and story of the game World of Warcraft, which they would create 10 years later. Along the way, they created StarCraft and Diablo, which were both very successful, but they didn't really become a giant until they released World of Warcraft in 2004. That kind of paves the way for what Blizzard is now, which is a massive conglomerate corporation that actually has a lot of game studios under it. That's about it for the history. A lot of their stuff is current, why they're important.
We're talking about the president of Blizzard. In 2016, they released a game during the summer called Overwatch, and that game really upped their sales and everything. It reached over 10 million players in just 3 weeks, which was really something amazing for any kind of game. It was also named Game of the Year in 2016. It gained over 5 million players every 6 months, which is something like any other game would kill to get and do. It was one of the fastest ever growing IPs of all time, if not the biggest. Knowing that they made so much money from it, with all the in-game purchases, with all the loot boxes, all the skins and everything that they could have bought, and they made Blizzard made a ton of money coming from it. They also introduced Hearthstone into the mobile apps and everything, and it's currently raking enough money to pay for 40 brand new Lamborghinis Aventador every month, which is $20 million in their monthly income. The mobile launch promised 31% increase in its monthly revenue. In 2015, they had their first main event for players from around the world. They came and gathered and fought for the $100,000 grand prize.
It's important to note that Hearthstone is kind of a landmark thing for them because it's based off the Warcraft IP, but it is both a new entry into mobile and the card game market, and card game market is surprisingly large, despite what you'd think. So it is kind of important that they managed to, with one game, break into 2 distinct markets.
They've invested a ton of money for they introduced recently the Overwatch League, which just released this year, and they invested a ton of money trying to make it big. It's basically it's a 7-month competition with 12 teams battling this kind of like a sports league. They play each other and everything, and in order to win the grand prize in the end, which is $3.5 million, the players they get paid too, like in sports, and they have a yearly wage of $50,000. And they also they recently teamed up with Twitch in order so they could stream their games and everything, like their championships and all that online. and Twitch they benefited from that. They were able to get more people to watch them, get more people to sponsor them and everything. And also like the members that have Twitch Prime, they're able to get loot from like games like Overwatch, Hearthstone, or World of Warcraft, and they're able to get like free loot boxes and everything if they're a Prime member of Twitch.
Now, the esports is kind of, it seems dumb, but because, you know, it's not like football, but it is important to note, whether you agree or disagree, video games are actually in the running to be an Olympic sport next year. And the Hong Kong Olympics actually wants them very bad. And it's important, esports aren't that profitable for Blizzard, but it makes them seem more legitimate, and it legitimizes them to more people that might not play games otherwise. So they're going to keep investing into that, because they want to look like a more legitimate business and company to more people across the globe. In the future, we can expect them, like they've always done with World of Warcraft and StarCraft, they're going to keep updating them, keep them profitable, because World of Warcraft's kind of an IP that's never going to go away because it's so successful. But the success of Overwatch and Hearthstone is important because they're two new IP, which, like Hollywood, this industry almost never makes new things. So a new thing that's wildly successful is very important because you can monetize it more. So we can expect to see them to make more new IP like Overwatch and more things like Hearthstone in the mobile market. Yeah, so this is mainly spurred on by the success of Overwatch, just giving them more confidence in the market, and that confidence in the market is actually a boon to the whole gaming market as a whole because it inspires more new IP. This will really help grow Blizzard's brand, and you'll probably see more of them in the future because they're just going to be more universal. In conclusion.
We talked about how they started in 1991, 1992 by 3 people. Talked about how in the present they have Overwatch and World of Warcraft and Diablo, how they've been making a name of themselves and making the company what it is today. And we also talked about the future and how they invent more IP games and become something really big and very important in the near future. Thank you for giving us this time. Is there any questions?